Ever since Empire Total War cursed every Total War player with the sense of unfulfilled potential, many in our Dare community, including yours truly, have dreamt of a sequel. Not just an upgraded expansion like Napoleon became, but a true sequel, one that did the time period of Empire justice. Now it does indeed make me happy to see an Empire coming to mobile, and I'm genuinely excited to see what it does hold in store. But the question remains whether we'll ever see an actual Empire 2. Despite its March launch, it ironically is the highest rated Total War game on Metacritic of all time, which I believe shows how much love and excitement there is for this time period, and how close EA came to create an experience that was not just better, but so different from the other games in the series. But let's face it, this year marks the staggering 15th year anniversary of Empire, which means that the Total War series has existed longer post-Empire than before it, and never truly returned to that time period once, except of course for the upcoming mobile version. With no real hint at a third game in the series either, it might look rather dark for those wishing for a third Empire game. But we can speculate whether there is a point to the opposite, namely that an Empire 2 is on the horizon somewhere. Now there are a lot of Total War games and DLC out there, but if you find those Steam prices to be a bit high, you can always find a discount on Instant Gaming, whom this channel is proud to be sponsored by. This is the world's biggest game key reseller where you basically find anything for any modern platform, and in our case, that's Steam. And as you can see, even when there's no discount on Steam, Instant Gaming's got you covered with insane savings. And you can even save big on brand new games. I've used it myself and I'm very happy with the offerings, so make sure to check out Instant Gaming, especially if you've been looking for big savings in strategy games. And make sure to use my affiliate link down below to support the channel further. Think about it. In the past few years, major strategy games from massive publishers have released, not just to critical acclaim, but have also become wildly popular. Ubisoft's Anno 1800 is an industrial revolution-focused strategy game that, while being mainly a city builder, has become one of the series' most popular titles, and portrays this era in a detailed and exciting way. Similarly, Paradox's Victoria 3 was one of the developer's best-selling titles at release ever, and similarly takes place in the 1800s, and significantly portrays the importance of globe-spanning markets, trade, and the Industrial Revolution. Consider also that Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition received a massive overhaul by Relic, a game taking place in a colonial era setting, and it's clear that there is a great potential in this era as a historical backdrop to strategy games. Even Total War's massively successful Warhammer games is filled with gunpowder warfare, with some of the coolest units being either gun-carrying riflemen or cannons that light up the battlefield. And even though Warhammer certainly changes up the formula, the basics are the same. It's just fun to watch a battlefield light up in fire and smoke, and to further take all of this to the great open seas with those powerful capital sail ships, which hasn't really been done in the same way since Empire and Napoleon, and arguably Shogun 2 Fall of the Samurai. In many ways then, I think there is much more desire for an Empire 2 than what Creative Assembly might think, and I really hope they return to the era. But if they do, what should an Empire 2 look like? Well, I've had 15 years to think about this question, and so let's talk about what Empire 2 needs to do to truly become the greatest Imperial Age game of all time. First of all, what Empire already managed to do so well was the sense of scope. And in terms of scope, Empire arguably remains the largest Total War game of all time when factoring for landmass. And that's the problem, isn't it? Empire's map is tiny compared to most Total Wars out there, symbolized first and foremost by the fact that France only has one true province, and that most of Europe can fit into the screen at the same time. Now, I am a fan of zoom levels, but that's not the issue here. The fact of the matter is that Empire's landmasses are tiny and harbor too few provinces for historically important and powerful states to mean much, and most of the time, this might result in extremely weird and unbalanced situations, as for example, when taking Paris will essentially wipe out all of France in one swift blow. For Empire 2 to truly surpass the first game then, the map needs to portray the world much more accurately, not just in Europe, but everywhere, and to hopefully include even more overseas territories and trading zones, and much more of Africa, for example, South America, and even further east in Asia, like China and Japan. Luckily, there is precedence for this in other Total War games. Shogun 2 wildly expanded the map of Shogun 1 in every sense of the word, and so did Rome 2. And if you look at the massive map of Pharaoh Dynasties, the map scope is actually very wide, but the territory size themselves are also very large, and this is the combination we need for an Empire 2 as well. Therefore, an Empire 2 is basically guaranteed to offer a much better map than its predecessor then, and it's something I want to see as soon as possible. Second, let's talk about mechanics. Now, I have talked about Empire in great lengths in several videos, but the most important one for this video might just be the one about cut content. Empire was originally supposed to be the deepest Total War game yet, with a large range of events and decisions both within and outside your realm. But these ideas were mostly scrapped before launch. This is something Empire 2 absolutely has to rectify and do justice. We're talking royal family mechanics that actually have an impact on state relations, and which can lead to the likes of alliances and even great succession wars, which was a big deal at the time. I want a buttload of new mechanics related to diplomacy, how empires relate to vassals and subjects, and new opportunities for colonization and expansion through divide and conquer mechanics. The Holy Roman Empire remained an institution until Napoleon destroyed it, and even though it stood on its last legs in the 1700s, mechanics related to its function and restoration need to be implemented, and this could create something truly unique in Total War history. In the same vein, we need some sort of a decadence mechanic for empires, as both the Spanish and the Ottoman empires saw an unprecedented decline in the 1700s and early 1800s that needs to be portrayed in much more detail. And just think of what could happen if the colonizing powers reached China and we were actually able to conduct gunboat diplomacy and infiltrate markets with opium. I think this would make any Total War game more dynamic and fun, as even large and powerful empires inevitably stagnate, and if not treated, might even fall to up-and-coming ones. And even though it's not as important as it used to be, religion should be a much more important aspect than it was in Empire. Empire admittedly had priests and churches and the like, but having actual missionary events and conversions as important parts of a world where European empires increasingly justify their expansions as civilizing missions, I think it would only make sense to expand religion. The same could of course go for the Ottoman Empire, as this multicultural and multi-religious empire needs to balance the various factions within its realm to stay united and powerful. The only real difference in Empire's age was seen through the technology tree, and while the technology tree in Empire was great and came with actual meaningful changes, I think Empire 2 can go even further. First of all, technology needs to much more represent the era, and the vast changes that the 1700s and the 1800s saw in terms of industrialization and productivity. I want many more buildings, I want to get rid of building slots, but if they have to be there, I want many more of them, and I want cities that actually sprawl and change as I play. Ironically, despite the cities being my biggest problem with Empire arguably, what it nevertheless did really well was its province system, having a main city surrounded by towns or villages that could be turned into farms or points of industry. This made Empire's map arguably the most dynamic in the series' history, because as your population grew in real numbers, by the way, not some abstract way, new cities appeared on the map as well and could be used to further industrialize your country and improve your economy. If Empire 2 can find a way to merge these systems, as in having more cities and more dynamic cities, but keep the small towns around the map, it would make a massive difference and perhaps even offer the most exciting province system of any Total War game. Further, even though Empire 2 shouldn't take too much inspiration from Victoria 3, I think gunboat diplomacy and the opening of markets and trade needs to take center stage as well. No, we don't need to manually produce everything ourselves in production chains, but I think it would add a lot to the experience to have trade and markets be even more important than they were in Empire. Now, in terms of the battlefield, there is a ton Empire 2 can improve over the first game. First of all, both the city maps and the fort maps were bottom tier in Empire arguably. For the most part, absolutely boring maps that not only serve to make you not want to ever touch the game again, especially when the AI bugs out. I mean, I like A Fortress on Fire as much as the next guy, and I do adore a massive flag, but Empire 2 needs to make sure that fort battles especially are bug-free and more fun to play, because right now, Empire's fort battles are just not it. In the same vein, Empire's city maps are a shadow of their former selves, always fought in a weird small town rather than directly outside a massive city, for example. As such, Empire 2 either needs to get completely rid of city maps or revamp them completely to perhaps include more fortifications and parts of the city's direct outskirts that are actually fun to play in. I'm certainly hoping for a revamp here, as good diversity in battlefields is a key reason to why some Total Wars are so much more fun than others. For the naval battles, which absolutely have to make a grand return, I want to be able to use my navy in ways I never could before. I want them to be able to participate in field battles if they take place on the coast, or to lead amphibious assaults against overseas enemies. I want supply systems and for navies to take a bigger part in trade, not just standing on a spot protecting nodes, but actually moving on those nodes and being in danger of being attacked by foreign powers or even pirates. Additionally, Empire 2 needs to keep the realism of Empire's line infantry firing mechanics, but remove some of the more more weird aspects. The close combat and bugginess of it all needs to change, of course, first of all to make the battles feel more organic and realistic. But more than that, it would be fantastic if Empire 2 could actually completely revolutionize Total War battlefields. Empires was after all a time of truly massive armies previously unseen, and if Creative Assembly could revamp their engine to make it possible to more often field tens of thousands of units on both sides without melting computers, I think that would be a true game changer for the series, and nowhere is better for such a change than an Empire 2. Oh, and if the game could include 8-player multiplayer and simultaneous turns and hot seat, it would be the icing on the cake. Those were my main desires and hopes for a potential Total War Empire 2, a title I really hope we'll see coming sooner rather than later. If you think my ideas were good or bad, or if you have your own, let me know in the comments. And make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and join the Discord. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!